Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Gettin' Savvy in Health, Wealth, and Beauty. Important to note that everything is for entertainment purposes only. Please do speak and meet with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. And also, please meet and speak with your GP before making any health or beauty decisions. Okay, Melissa, so it's the Friday of the long weekend that we're taping this. I played 2 hours of tennis this morning.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun. We do cardio tennis, and then my husband joins me for a lesson. And then after that, we went to a guy, Jason, or Chefy as we call him, cooks, who does great dinner parties for us. He's opened up this new kind of mobile kitchen.
Oh,
And yeah, with all of its delicious food. So we stopped there just to check it out because it just opened. And there's a point to my story,
okay.
which is we thought would be slightly healthy, but we had tuna salad
Okay.
on a bun
Okay.
and French fries.
Okay.
Anyway,
But I've been with you when you have French fries and you have French fry.
no,
You have French fry. You don't have French fries.
I have French fries
One.
with
Yeah.
with the mayo. But all
Okay.
to say, I got home and then I was preparing for this, like just checking the markets and a few things to talk about. And I'm like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And it's not the tennis. And my husband had to go, he's been having a nap for 2 hours after we ate.
It was too heavy.
How is that possible?
Guys, when you're a chef and you want to make your food taste good, you're going to put in extra fat and salt and all the good stuff that makes food taste good, but it's very heavy. And, it can weigh you down and make you tired. I can't have a full meal like that, like a heavy meal like that. Or I can, but I need to have small portions and, go for a walk after.
But why does it make you heavy? Your body's taking all the energy to digest the food like that. Is that what it is? It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I
Yeah.
might fall asleep. I might be falling asleep as we speak. I'm kidding.
It's funny. So I played tennis. I played an hour yesterday and I played an hour the day before. So I played an hour with Rebecca and she beat me.
No.
Yes, it's unbelievable. And I don't even let her win. Like she actually beats me. And then I played with my girlfriend yesterday and we just rallied. We had really good rallies. And then we played and I beat her a few games and we had great rallies, like back and forth. And I'm reading the Andre Agassi, his autobiography. It's so good. I would highly recommend reading it. Yeah. It's just because it makes me feel better that like even he finds tennis frustrating and hates it and so hard. So obviously, if I've only been playing for a couple years and I'm not his degree of talent and haven't been playing it since I was a child, like I'm obviously going to find it like not so easy.
Okay, so two questions. What's the takeaway from his book? I mean, I'm sure you've not finished it yet, but like,
I haven't finished it. I'm halfway through. It's just interesting to hear the takeaways. He starts the book saying, I hate tennis.
Yeah.
And the reason I found it interesting is because I saw a article about how a high number of professional tennis players on tour are on antidepressants. And I found that interesting. And when you read his book, he talks about how lonely of a sport tennis is. You're far away from your opponent. So you don't have your teammates on the same side. You're very far away from the whole match. Even your coach, like in boxing, you might be opposed, but your coach is there rubbing it. Your coach isn't allowed to talk to you as far away. And it's a very lonely, highly competitive, mentally challenging sport that if your head's not in the game or if your nerves are up, it doesn't matter how much you've trained, you can sort of choke.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it made me wonder, like, are they on antidepressants because it's lonely and they're depressed? Or are they on it as sort of like a performance enhancing drug because it takes away some of the nerves and the anxiety?
Does it?
Well, yeah, it's an anti-anxiety medication.
Oh.
Right? So I just thought it was, so I just reading about that and hearing about how, and also it made me realize like a lot of people that become professional athletes or actors or singers, you need the right parent. So much of it comes to, well, the right or wrong parent, I should say, because he has a very love-hate relationship with his father. His father, he hated his youth. He drilled him. Same thing you hear about Tiger Woods or Michael Jackson or a lot of these people that have this insane parent that's like forcing them to do this thing over and over. And they're doing it because they want them to be a champion, but it's also abusive in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, I just thought it's just a good book.
Interesting.
I
And
got
then
the
the
part where
second,
he starts dating Brooke Shields.
oh, okay. And wait, and then the second part, though, is when do you have time to read a book? Like, are you, because I'm trying to start to do the audiobooks.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
No, so I don't love audio. I like podcasts. I love
Mhm.
listening to audio podcasts. For a book, I like to, and read nonfiction mostly, and I like to read it with a highlighter.
Oh, same.
Yeah, so that's why I don't love audiobooks as much. Or if I'm listening, because I tried listening to Peter Attia's book on an audiobook, but I liked it so much I bought the hard copy because I wanted to highlight. So
Okay.
I don't read, I don't have much time, but in the summertime, I love, like if I come home from work and I have an hour downtime, I like laying in the backyard or at the cottage outside and like in the sun
Oh,
with like obviously an
nice.
umbrella.
Yeah,
And if I get into it, then I choose to read. And I have to be into the book to choose to read it.
got it. Okay. Makes
So
sense. All right, my two questions are answered. Anyway, okay, so what's on your docket for healthcare this week?
So there was not that many things that really caught my interest this week, but there was a few. Okay, so the first
Okay.
one is Ozempic penis. So I want to talk about that and what that
Okay.
is. Okay.
Okay.
The next one is Justin Timberlake was just it came out that he was diagnosed with
Yes.
Lyme disease. So the reason I wanted to talk about that is it's tick season. So we think about Lyme disease. And also I'm watching The Better Sister on Amazon Prime, which is
Yep.
with his wife, Jessica Biel, who's so
Yeah.
good at it. So then it just kind of made me think about Justin Timberlake. And the other thing was an article talking about how many steps a day do you really need? So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. How about you? There's been so much that's been going on with like earnings and interest rates
Yes,
and
that's
tariffs.
right.
And
So, yeah, so I guess a couple things. One, we're in the height, or maybe just finished the height of earnings season. So just to kind of recap for everybody, or maybe let me make this a test question for you. Why do we care about earnings and their quarterly earnings?
so what? So we want to see how a company's doing, and we want
Mhm.
to see how the stock moves in response. Because if the earnings aren't very good, like United Healthcare this week, you could see the stock plummet.
Mhm.
Is that why?
Yeah, yeah, that's why. That's why. So quarterly earnings. So every 3 months, you get a read on what the revenue, how many sales this company's generated, and does it match the analyst on Wall Street's expectations? And if it does or it beats, the stock tends to go higher. If it doesn't, it goes lower. There's obviously many other factors. In other words, like there's the sales and then there's the profit margins. So did the profit margins also exceed? If they didn't, then the stocks could still go down. So it's a read on how the company is performing. It can also be a read on the economy. And
Mhm.
it can also, in the current environment, be a read on the impact of tariffs. There's a couple of companies that said, our business has been negatively impacted by the tariffs. Procter and Gamble was one of them. They're going to be increasing the prices starting in 2026 to the tune of mid-single digits, so up by about 5, 6, 7%. That's what they're going to increase their prices by.
Okay.
You also had UPS. They're going
Yeah.
to be withholding their guidance because of tariffs and consumer demand.
So explain to me the UPS thing. So is it because Amazon's doing a lot of their own shipping? Like I would think UPS gets used so much because everybody orders things online.
Well, I don't know the split. I didn't read what the company's
Yeah.
description or listen to the conference call. Probably have to listen to the conference call in terms of their specific reasons, but they
Mhm.
do have concerns about the impact of tariffs. You're not going to be importing as much,
Mhm.
right? And consumer demand. Can you handle higher
Well,
prices? Because the tariffs are going to cause higher prices on any products that you're shipping from China or wherever.
I can tell you a personal example. Like for the past, I don't know, 5, 10 years, I've been importing products from the US, diet and health products. So mostly protein bars, protein shakes, and these protein soups that I people use when they're doing the Good Diet plan. And it's become so difficult to import from UPS or even FedEx. And the price has gone way up. And I don't know if that's from tariffs or it's just so expensive now. I am not bothering with it.
You're kidding. What do you mean you're not
No,
bothering with it?
I'm not bothering with it. I'm just going to recommend patients to go look for I'm just going to tell them, try to find this type of protein bar, try to find this type of soup, because there's not enough money in it for me to stock
Wow.
these products. Like, it's not worth the headache, and it's become expensive, and there's no margin on it for me at all.
That's unbelievable.
There you
What a
go.
shame.
Yes, just lost a client.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So higher prices.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we want to, we also, what we hear from company managements is guidance. So the stock price can react positively or negatively or neutral, depending on what the results are. But importantly as well, what is the company management saying about how they see the next quarter playing out, let alone the rest of the year, or what we call back half or second half of the year? So it gives you a read in terms of, how the company management thinks they're going to be doing, but it also will tell you what their strategy is and what their plans are. So one of the companies that you and I, we can maybe talk about right now, have talked about in the past that I
Mhm.
think has been interesting to me, but often I'm early on stocks or I'm thinking about them and I might not buy them for even 2 years sometimes.
Okay.
Like Exxon as an example, I've owned Exxon probably for about 6 years now, but I had been looking at it for a year and a half, but everybody vilified energy, as I've talked about so many times, and they let less so today because people recognize we're not going to be net zero, or renewables for many, many years. So with Exxon, I was watching it for a year and a half because I'm like, everybody still hates energy. There's no point in me putting money to work right now. It'll just be dead money for a year and a half. So I get these ideas in my head, these themes, these companies that then fit into that theme. And then I wait till I feel like maybe there's a turning point or we're seeing the bottom of that theme or that sentiment. Okay. So that was the Exxon story. For Starbucks, if you remember, about 10 months ago, they hired a new CEO from Chipotle who turned around that company. So
We
the
talked about
stock,
this on one of our
you remember
podcasts.
that,
Yeah.
right? I think that was back in October, well, 10 months ago.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I was thinking about Starbucks then, didn't buy it. It takes time to have a turnaround. In the most recent quarter, I listened to an interview that the CEO did on CNBC, which was very good. If anybody's interested to own Starbucks at all, this is a turnaround story, and I highly recommend to listen to the CEO because they're talking about various strategies for the company. So, in other words, I couldn't believe it, but apparently they can open up about 10,000 new store locations, which is a significant amount. What that means is that there's still a growth opportunity. There's still the growth opportunity to increase traffic, and they that has been a focus for the company. So more footsteps in the store means you're buying more product. That's what traffic is, okay, as it relates to retail stores. And they're also going to roll out new product lines, which isn't surprising, right? They're going to reimagine what baked goods looks like. Like when we go into a Starbucks, you and I, and I'm sure many people are looking
Mhm.
at all the baked goods and saying, I'm not buying that anymore. It's not
Mhm.
of interest to me. I work out too hard. We're all on
Mhm.
this longevity play. Seems like the younger generation is more aware than we ever were at their stage about eating some of those baked goods. So they're going to reimagine that. They're going to add in some type of protein drink or drinks. I'm not sure what. So I think they're really moving with the times in terms of what people want. So to me, it's an interesting story to continue to look at. I haven't bought it yet, but it's possible that I will.
Okay.
Also, one other thing that I think is really interesting, you know how if you're in some locations, it's all about the mobile order. Like
Yeah.
in Vegas, okay, we were in Vegas and the lineup to wait for your Starbucks mobile order in one of the casinos was
Mhm.
forever.
Mhm.
Forever. So I think
Mhm.
they're going to make sure that their staffing is really appropriate for those high traffic hours,
Mhm.
whether it's mobile orders or in-store orders. And I think that will alleviate a lot of the supply bottleneck experiences that people have as they go in. So I think there's a lot of different things that they can do as it relates to still grow the store count. They can change and develop the product line. You've got a great CEO at the helm. You're going to, satisfy the staffing issues that I think a lot of people feel. And they're renovating a lot of this new stores. I think they're going to be renovating or completed having renovated 1,000 stores by calendar year 2026. So think about it. Like the stores have looked the same for a long time. That doesn't seem like something that would be important to you or to me, but it really does have a revamp in terms of how people feel about the brand and the experience. So all to say, I think it's something interesting to take a look at.
Yeah, like I've said, I think it's the new fast food for kind of middle class, upper middle class kids. Like when we talk about, how we talk about what do we see on our credit card bill over and over again?
Yeah.
So I
Uber.
think, yeah, a lot of parents that I talk to, it's Uber, Apple, Starbucks. My kids go to Starbucks. Like it's embarrassing. Like I don't even want to admit it, but they do. And they want that. That's what they ask for. So can
But
we
what
get
are
a
they
Starbucks,
buying
please?
there?
The
But
pink
you're
drink,
you're wait,
the
you're a doctor. What can you send your child to for Starbucks?
okay, so the other day we were just like in a rush. And so they went in. I got the egg white turkey bacon um English muffin
Breakfast
sandwich,
sandwich.
breakfast
Yep.
sandwich. My daughter, it's her favorite food in the world, their grilled cheese sandwich. She said it's her favorite number one food is their grilled cheese sandwich. And then they get these drinks that are concoctions of like, I don't know, like pink drink with like their order. So when she gives me an order on what to order for her, she sends me a voice note so I know exactly how to say it. And it's like
Oh my
three
God.
lines long. Yeah, people and I think what people like about Starbucks is the consistency. Like if you're at a Starbucks, no matter where you are in the world, you know what you
Hmm.
can get. It's like
Yeah.
fast food that way, that if I'm at a McDonald's anywhere in the world, I know what I can get, but yet Starbucks still hasn't elevated. I don't go to McDonald's and order the breakfast sandwich, but when you do it at Starbucks, it kind of feels still like you're making a healthier choice.
True.
So, uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think
Okay.
we'll see. I just think people are generally eating less because of Ozempic.
Yeah.
So they're drinking more, maybe more drinks.
Well, I mean, if you can get the drinks with the protein in it, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's still one that I like. I would just point out though that Uh, they did just report their numbers, as I mentioned. Revenue was 2% higher than consensus. They made $9.5 billion in the quarter. So just to kind of put that in perspective, right? I think it's always interesting to say, like, how many sales of Starbucks did they make? 9.5 billion. 9.3 billion was expected. So they did beat consensus, which is a positive. And their same store sales, though, was down 2% year over year. Same store sales is the key metric that retail stocks companies focus in on. So what it means, same store sales means because most retailers open up new stores
Hmm.
every year, and new stores can take 1 to 3 years to become what's determined as a full store, meaning people recognize that they know where the location is. So they don't make the same amount of sales that a store that has been around for a long time
Right.
would.
Right. Yeah.
So it takes about 1 to 3 years for that to happen. So that's why you always want to look at what are the same store sales numbers, the same stores that were there last year to this
Hmm.
year to make
Hmm.
sure that it's a good comparison. Are we up or are we down? So that figure is very important to look at. So in this case, they were down 2%, but at the same time, apparently a year ago, they were offering a lot of discounts.
Okay.
So all those discounts made those sales ramp up much more significantly. So whenever you get a number, you always have to kind of also understand, well, what's
Yeah.
behind that number, just as FYI. But I will just say, so the stock, I always like, as you know, to look at a 52-week high and low. And the low was $72. The high was 117. So pretty big range for a year.
Yeah.
And it's trading at 86. So closer to the
Oh,
low,
a
which
little.
which I kind of like better. And then not that I mean, there's some people who always buy at the high. That's called momentum investing. Not really what I like to do, but there's no right or wrong. And the PE multiple, so the multiple, how many times earnings are you paying, is 37 times. So it's not a cheap stock. The market's at about 23, 24 times. But that's also because earnings are likely depressed. They're not doing as well as they could. So is there an opportunity to buy in here? Maybe. Maybe.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
also was looking at Lululemon. That's one we've talked
Oh,
about also,
we
right? And
did.
so I think they reported their earnings, is it this week or last week? I don't know. But that stock's been down a lot. And I don't know, it could be the right time. I've always looked at it, waiting to see if there's a right time to buy it. It's an interesting one because you hear so many different views on it. A lot of people have been sort of going against it, but I don't know. I still love Lululemon. Like
Well,
those
I wanted,
Lululemon
yeah.
shorts that I bought. Remember, I was in Muskoka a couple weeks ago and I went to the pop-up store they had there.
Mm-hmm.
They're my favorite shorts. The little, like, they're still my favorite. I still
Okay.
think, I don't know. Some people will tell you I don't. Anyhow, you tell me, what have you read about it?
So I think it's interesting, and I was trying to um, find a good analyst report on it. In fact, I've been trying to find an analyst to come on my television program to talk to me about retail stocks in general, because I do want to get someone's take on Lululemon because the stock is down so significantly.
Yes.
And it trades at 13 times on a PE multiple. Again,
Yeah.
remember the market's 23
Yeah.
times. We just talked about
That's
Starbucks
good.
at 33 times. And so I do wonder if it's not a buying opportunity at some point, and is now the point. So the question is, well, there's a lot of questions. One, of course, will be the tariff impact. The other
Yeah.
part is, how is the consumer actually faring? The third part is company specific, which is the product still good? And that's what I wanted to get your take on, because I think you have a good pulse with that. So you like the product.
I love the product.
Why? And compare it to aloe.
It fits. So I love aloe too. But for kids, especially when I look at Lululemon for like tweens,
Mm-hmm.
teens, and if I'm actually going to use them to work out, I find it fits the best. It's the most comfortable and it holds up and it lasts. And I think it's still in style. It looks great. I love aloe also. Aloe's a higher price point, but it still wouldn't be my first choice to actually exercise in. But I buy it all. Like I buy I'll buy like stuff if I'm looking for new stuff. I'll buy like even like cheapos like Shein or Temu, and then I'll buy aloe, and then I'll buy Lululemon. So I just think a lot of people still wear athleisure a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's room for competition.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, I haven't bought it, and yeah, but
Well, it might be, yeah, I do want to speak. Not that I mean, I can analyze the reports too, but I will say that I did look at a technical analyst report on Lululemon just today.
Mhm.
And it's so remember, there's fundamental analysis, and then
Mhm.
there's technical analysis. So fundamental analysis is really what you and I do, which is talking about the economy, the consumer demand, the need and interest in the product, the sales revenue. Technical analysis is just looking at the stock price movements and whether or not they break certain levels. And sometimes if they do break certain levels, that means there's going to be additional downward pressure. Technical analysis does not care at all about the fundamentals, the economy, or anything. And many, many years ago, the majority of money managers only looked at fundamental analysis or the fundamentals.
Okay.
And I think that both, and this goes back to about 2007 or 8. And I had a great technical analyst, and I started bringing him around to some of the biggest portfolio managers. I said, why wouldn't you just use this as an extra tool in your toolbox to see if the stock is breaking down or breaking out, meaning out to the upside? This guy's great at doing that. And so I actually got, I got some of the large CIOs, so chief investment officers, to actually listen to this guy and use him weekly.
Mm.
And so my point in saying all this is that apparently one report I looked at today, Lululemon from a technical perspective is still breaking down.
Mm.
So, you know, which in some ways I don't mind, because it's like, okay, nobody on the street really likes it or loves it. They're still selling these shares.
Yeah.
So at some point, I mean, there's the expression, you don't need to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
At some point too, though, I mean, the stock is down so significantly that that maybe you don't have to catch the bottom. So the 52-week high was $423. It's now at 192. So basically cut in half.
Yeah.
So it's something to look at.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm
Okay.
just sort of keeping an eye on it
Yeah.
because I also am trying to have these conversations with my daughter, right? And so, we talked about when you're looking at investing your first 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever, we talked about how some people recommend the split where you put 70% in an index fund like the S&P 500 or
Mm-hmm.
the TSX or what something, just the index fund that represents those areas. And then you put 15% in a good dividend paying stock, and then 15% in something that's interesting to you that you think is a little bit more of a risk, but that has some growth potential or is a bit of. So I'm trying to get her to think about stocks that she knows of, like companies that
Great.
Lululemon, McDonald's, Amazon. So just having those conversations.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's keep our eye on that. Let's keep our eyes on Lulu and Starbucks. So Lulu, just as an example, it's down 4% today. So something's driving it.
Maybe the
I'm not sure
Canadian
what.
tariffs. Remember the fact that Trump just increased the 25% to 35% Canadian
Probably.
because of
Probably.
because
Yeah,
we're recognized Palestine as an independent state.
that's
So Trump
right.
is punitive. I mean, so that could be the tariff.
Also, sorry, I'm just seeing Lululemon falls after JP Morgan. So one of JP Morgan's analysts that covers the stock warns of an elevated level of markdowns and cautious consumer spending.
Maybe, but cautious consumer spending would also affect Starbucks. Maybe, but interest rates seem to be okay. And especially if you look at the US, it seems to be like they're avoiding a recession. So I don't know.
Yeah. We'll get to that too, because there was the FMC this week and also jobs. But let's talk about GLP one.
Ozempic penis. So like, okay,
Wait,
we've
say
heard
that again.
about Ozempic penis.
Okay.
So it caught my attention because
Wait,
it's
before
attention
you go,
catching.
wait, before you say it, can you hear this beeping in the background?
Yeah. Is that you or me?
It's me. It's our dishwasher. Hold on.
Okay. Do, 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 do. I feel like I need to play some like background music while you're checking the
It's so
dishwasher.
ridiculous. I don't know why it needs to beep.
Because
Anyway,
tell you it's done.
who cares? I'm not going to
I
rush to
know.
unload the
I get that too.
dishwasher.
Same with my dryer and my washer. We'll get to it when we get to it. Eventually, I'm going to need a clean dish.
Exactly.
Relax.
I only need an alarm clock.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. So back to
Ozempic penis. Okay, so we've heard of Ozempic hair, we've heard of Ozempic butt, we've heard about all these other things. So what is Ozempic penis? It basically is that men on GLP-1s are reporting that they've noticed that their penis has grown since taking Ozempic.
I thought you'd say shrink.
No, so there's a couple different theories. So the average, they're saying it looks like it grows about an inch to an inch and a half. So
Long or width?
length. Good question, though. Valid question. So they're finding that part of the reason for this, which a lot of men seem to be agreeing with, is that they're losing the fat over their pubic bone. So when you reduce the amount of fat that's been hanging over it, their penis looks bigger, right? Because you don't have the fat getting in the way. And also, it increases blood flow. And when you being on Ozempic, all of a sudden they're having less inflammation, losing weight, better metabolic health, which translates to better blood flow. So they even did a study showing that in obese men on Ozempic, as well as men with diabetes, that losing weight on Ozempic will raise their testosterone as much as going on testosterone replacement therapy.
No.
Yes. So what they found is that especially men that have obesity around their abdomen tend to it can affect their testosterone. It can lower their testosterone. And so when they lose that weight around their abdomen, they notice the testosterone levels actually go up. So they're going to have better erections, more blood flow to the penis, as well as more muscle mass, more energy. So being on these drugs, it's not about just, fitting into your pants and looking better. There's a lot of metabolic benefits. And I just want to say that I also think that this is so unfair. Like women go on Ozempic and they lose their hair. Okay.
Right.
They lose their butts. Men go on Ozempic and they grow their penis. It's
Doesn't
just
make
another
sense.
example of Life
So
winner.
not right.
Yeah. Although I guess that's kind of a benefit for the woman too. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe. I guess
Maybe.
it depends on what you were starting at.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, some like for the reason it's actually valid is like family doctor. We have some men who are on testosterone replacement, and if they go on Ozempic, all of a sudden their testosterone might actually go too high because they're
Wow.
going to increase their testosterone from losing the weight as well. So sometimes that might mean they can come off the testosterone replacement, or
Mhm.
we can reduce the dose.
Huh.
So yeah, so I thought that was an interesting, you know,
Yeah.
be a good motivation for some men that are on the fence about, do I take this? Do I not take this? If they think, well, maybe I can gain an inch and improve my libido.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, so unfair.
Yeah. So,
So I don't know if you saw this. I'm just checking it out now because I did see there was some negative news on Novo Nordisk, which you own.
oh, that is
Did you
my
see
work.
this?
We could talk about good picks and bad picks. That's one that I'm like, oh my God, that has just been a horrible. I'm not proud of that pick.
Well, how,
Yeah, it's down 20%, isn't it?
when did you buy it?
I don't know when it was down. I thought I was buying it near the bottom, and then it kept going lower and lower.
You know what though, at the same time too, it's still like I'll get an analyst report because you have to also know what else is in the pipeline, right? And you have to look at the valuation, which I'll look at in just 1 second. But there was news that came out yesterday, which said that Eli Lilly's best-selling diabetes drug, Mounjaro, lowered the risk of heart attacks and stroke in a late-stage trial. The
Mhm.
company said early on Thursday, yesterday, in a sign it might be edging closer to getting the benefit included on its label. That could be a blow to Novo Nordisk, which sells Wegovy, similar medicine already approved to reduce the risk of heart attack and stroke in obese and overweight. Novo said it's not concerned, according to a spokesperson.
They both do. I mean, some things I just think like all like when I listen to this news, I just think it's such not like it's just a bit of like it's just noise. They're both such helpful drugs for reducing metabolic risk. Like obviously, if you lose weight, if you reduce your inflammatory markers, if you reduce your blood pressure, if you reduce your cholesterol, you're going to reduce your cardiovascular risk. You know, but I
Mhm.
guess if they get included for that, then drug insurance companies have to pay for the drug, and which is
Right,
why potentially drugs like companies like United Healthcare, who've had such increased costs, could be that they're covering more of these medications. And I think I don't know how much the Canadian market is to them, but like I said, I think it's just negligent and
yeah,
shocking that they forgot to renew the patent in Canada. Like if they actually forgot and there's not some other motivation there, then that's just a company that's been very poorly run.
right. Which could give you a reason to decide to sell it. But I don't know if it's in a tax-free savings account, it's probably not worth it,
Hmm.
right? If because you can't use that tax loss against a tax gain.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think it is my TFSA actually.
Oh, then you might want
I
to.
might take a loss on it. Yeah, we'll
You might
see.
want to. Yeah,
It's
it's
just, it just
down.
goes to show you that like it's so confusing to me as a consumer or as a doctor when you see a product that I think is the blockbuster product of the year and the stock
Hmm.
is like the lowest it's been. Like Ozempic is just a winner. I still, most of
Right.
my patients are still on Ozempic over um some of them are switching over to Mounjaro, but I usually it's still Ozempic is the most common one.
Hmm. Well, it goes back to like investing in healthcare stocks is not easy, and in my opinion, meaning and that you could say this for many stocks and sectors, which is, what's the valuation? What makes sense on a valuation basis? And you have to when it comes to these healthcare stocks and pharmaceutical stocks and biotech stocks, what's the pipeline looking at? What are the
Yeah.
FDA trials that they're doing right now? What are the likelihood of that occurring? A lot of these hedge funds hire biotech PhDs
Yeah.
that sit and do this analysis. Like that's how difficult it is. I'm not saying you and I have to do that. We have to know a little bit of our homework, which is what is the pipeline, what's priced into the stock. I guess that's the most important thing. So like right now, Novo is trading at a 13 times multiple. So it's a fraction of what the market is trading at, which is about 23 times. So someone else might be start to look at this and say, oh, the pipeline does look strong. All the negative news is in the stock. Either the valuation doesn't even reflect now what the total addressable market could be for the weight loss drugs. So, I can guarantee you there's someone doing homework on the buy side of this right now
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
speaking of prices, and again, this also to your point as well, we have to think about what are the insurance companies going to do with this? What will Robert Kennedy think about these drugs? If people are on these and there's a lot less complications from diabetes and heart attacks and strokes, does that not incentivize the US government to provide subsidization for this kind of drug? I wonder if Canada shouldn't be doing that, quite frankly, because it decreases the cost for hospitals.
But then how come we're seeing the healthcare costs go up for United
Because
Health? But that's to understand. Like if their costs are going up because more people are on these drugs, shouldn't their costs be going down if these drugs are saving them from the cost of other complications?
Well, I don't think there's nearly enough people on these drugs to
Yeah.
have any effect on what the hospital costs and insurance costs are yet. I'm saying if you did make it more available, because that's something you and I always talk about, how affordable is this for everybody? How many
It will be
people?
soon. So it's not. It's expensive, and most people go off it because apparently the stat is 1 in 8 Americans have tried a GLP-1. They don't stay on it because often it's because of cost is the
That's
number one
right.
reason. And I mean, the other reason it could be, side effects for some people, they don't like it, or some people
Mhm.
are able to eat through it. But I told you, if it's going to be, we'll see. Like if this goes generic in Canada, as it says it's going to in January, that's going to significantly lower the price, which should lead to so many more people being on it. And yeah, I think that will make a difference. But the thing I'm really seeing most, and now maybe it's just the neighborhood I'm in, or maybe it's just the demographic, it seems like the people that are really benefiting from this are like the perimenopausal women who just lose 10, 15 pounds and just feel happier and better. I don't know
Yep.
if that's going to translate to a real, medical benefit down. Like then the patients that are in their 60s or 70s that already have heart disease, if they go on this medication and they lose another 20 pounds, yeah, that could help lower the amount of diabetes drugs they have to take. And it actually could, I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
anticipate we're going to see. And I did a TV show that will come out, I think, in the next year at some point, on CBC. Forget what it's called, The Passionate Eye.
Okay.
Talking about it's all on Novo Nordisk. That's what the whole Passionate Eye is going to be about: Ozempic and Wegovy and Novo
Wow.
Nordisk. And they asked me to predict, what do I think about these in the future? Like, do I think there's going to be lots of side effects and everybody's going to say, oh my God, get off these drugs, can't believe we're on them? Do I think we're going to see more people be on them? And my hypothesis and my guess is that we're going to see more people being on them. And I think we're going to see more even adolescents. I think you're going to see them used more even in a pediatric population.
I
That's,
wouldn't be surprised.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking
yeah.
of costs for 1 second, the costs of the GLP-1s, and perimenopause, I was astounded. So you just put me on Duaviva, or I can never say the
Yeah,
name.
do a V. Yeah.
Duaviv, okay. And my husband went to pick up the prescription, and I said, how much was it? And he said 300, and it's like $319 for 3 packages. So for
Okay, for
3
3 months.
months.
Mhm.
But you know what, Melissa? Like, that's a lot of money. That's an extra. If you're a single woman, maybe a single mother,
Mhm.
or married,
Mhm.
wanting to put the kids in hockey, that's
Mhm.
an extra $100 a
Mhm.
month after tax
Yeah.
that you have to spend
Yeah.
on yourself to be normal or to feel
Yeah.
better.
To feel better
I,
and potentially reduce health risks. Now, I don't know how the price of Duavi compares to if you were on the estrogen patch and Prometrium, which are some other options. There might be lower cost options, and some people have coverage.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's true. You have to choose out of pocket. What am I going to pay for? As a woman in perimenopause, you were thinking, or menopause, am I going to pay for hormone therapy? Am I going to pay for Ozempic? Am I going to pay for the gym membership and the Pilates membership and the Botox and all these things that,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. And
so
this comes down to, as well, like I'm fiscally conservative,
Mhm.
but in a developed world or nation,
Mhm.
there should be a standard. And that also dovetails into the fact that, with menopause, there's no standard health checkup at a certain age that addresses those, your concerns when you're 47 versus 27. There's no standardized across Canada checkup that should be paid for by the government that really addresses
Well,
what's going on.
there is. Our government does pay for our annual physical. Like you can go to the doctor, you can get your blood work done, you can go
But
to the
don't
doctor.
for, yeah, but don't, yes, but one that specializes in
I
addressing.
think it's a little bit, all this special, I kind of think it's not as complicated as they all make it out to be. I
Well,
really,
but that's also because you're more interested and involved in it now. But
maybe.
most people's doctors aren't, I'm finding. And so they're all struggling.
Yeah.
You're more on top of it.
Yeah. Maybe. And
So
I think now that there's so much more awareness around it,
that's right.
there, I think in a lot of ways it will actually get cheaper for some women because a lot of women had to rely on naturopaths and what they used to call the Wild West of menopause therapy, where they were getting
True.
some compounded drugs that none of their health insurance cover, like none of their drug coverage was paying for. Now,
Great point.
I think more doctors are getting comfortable saying, okay, you're in menopause, you're in perimenopause, you want to try some progesterone at night? Here you go. Here's a prescription, and your drug plan will probably cover it.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just think that when there's potentially really preventative measures or drugs that are so helpful to how somebody feels,
Hmm.
and how they can perform,
Hmm.
those are things that I think can
Well,
be
look at
covered.
Trump. He's demanding that drug companies lower the price of drugs. And
Yeah.
he's having a meeting with the CEO of every drug company talking about how they can lower the prices. So we'll see
Hmm.
where that goes. Obviously,
Yeah.
he feels that way also. I've always it is true. Like some of these drugs, you know, you think, oh, wow, there's something that might be able to help me. And if you don't have coverage, you go there and it's like, okay, so that's going to cost me how much money? Like,
Yeah.
or God forbid for people that are actually like in need of a life-saving medication.
Yeah, that's another matter. Speaking of Trump for 1 second, well, we'll talk about the tariffs in a moment, but I just saw today, maybe a couple hours ago, that I believe, is signing an executive order to mandate fitness tests in school.
Hmm.
Don't you remember when we were little? And I actually thought about this the other day when I was doing sit-ups with my trainer. I was like, because he made me do them fast, right? And fast push-ups. And it reminded me of when we were little and you had like a minute and you had to see how many sit-ups you could do in a minute.
Yeah.
And so this fitness test, you have to run a mile. You've got to do, I think I've got that right. You've got to do pull-ups or push-ups. Remember, you had a choice way back when, and sit-ups. I thought, isn't that brilliant? I think it's brilliant. You don't
Why?
like it?
But why is it
Why?
brilliant? What's it going to show? That there's some kids that are not fit?
Well, I think it makes you aware that you should be.
Yeah. Okay. So then follow it through. So what happens to the kids that they're like, you're unhealthy, you're not eating well, you're out of shape? What then? So that parent says, okay, are you going to pay for my kid to go on Ozempic? Are you going to pay for my kid to have a gym membership? Are you going to pay for my,
Well, maybe it incentivizes a child to be competitive and to, take care of themselves more and to want to do better.
maybe?
What's the alternative?
Yeah. I think it's
What
good.
we've been seeing. That's the alternative. What we've been seeing,
Yeah.
which is obesity amongst children, which is not
Well, I think
fun
a
for
big
them.
part of obesity, I think a big part of childhood obesity, I think children model their parents a lot. And I
True.
always talk about how if you want to get healthier children, get healthier parents. You know,
Smart.
have
Yep.
if they see the parent exercising regularly, eating healthy, taking
Hmm.
measures to improve their health, I think that sets an example for the kids. But I certainly think that gym is important, being active is important. So yeah, like it's not a bad
Hmm.
thing at all. So speaking of fitness and steps, so I saw this
Yeah.
study.
Oh,
The first
yeah.
time I saw it, I thought, oh, is this really what people spend their time and money studying? But I kind of think, okay, I get it. So the age old, you know, thinking was that we should all aim for 10,000 steps a day, right? You've
Right.
heard that. A lot of people, if you have an Apple Watch, a lot of times to fill the circle, you want to be hitting 10,000 steps, 10,000 steps. So apparently they did some research and found that actually that's sort of arbitrary. That was just sort of based on a marketing campaign that was done years ago.
Oh my God.
There's no real added benefit from a health perspective once you go above 7,000 steps a day.
Hmm.
They're saying rather than tell patients you must walk 10,000 steps a day, which seems like maybe too much or daunting for some people, say even if you get above 3,000, like 3,000 to 7,000 steps, you will have a benefit. So
Hmm.
the goal should be telling people, don't worry, you don't have to get 10,000 steps a day, but you do have to move. Get up,
Yeah.
get out, you know?
Yeah.
And if you can get 5,000 steps, great. There will be a health benefit. So just to me, that seems so obvious. That's like saying to somebody, you don't have to lose, even if you can't lose 20 pounds, lose 10. Yeah, it just seems obvious to me. Like obviously getting any steps is better than no steps. But anyhow, I thought
Yeah.
headline. So maybe for some people, they're like, you know what? Okay, I can get that done.
Hmm. Yeah. It's smaller goals, right? Or it's kind of as always a good way to start
Yeah.
a
Smaller
process.
goals, and it will get people closer to getting the recommended amount of exercise.
Hmm.
So they're saying the recommend for an adult, they recommend or it's 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week or
150 minutes. Okay.
75 minutes of high intensity exercise.
Hmm.
So you're there, I'm there like easily, but a lot
Yeah.
of people, that's the goal. And so
Yeah.
people say to me, well, I walk all the time. But the key is it moderate intensity or is it just strolling? So to
Hmm.
figure out if it's moderate intensity, you want to be in 50 to 70% of your max heart rate. So, let's say you're 40 years old. You go 220 minus 40.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's 180. And then you want to be 50 to 70% of that. So that's 90 to let's say 120 or something. I'm just not
Hmm.
doing best mental math, but in around that range. So I tell patients when you're out for a walk, when you're walking the dog, take your pulse or use your wearable, find out what your heart rate is. And if it's not, then that's not moderate intensity.
Wait, when you say 90 to 100, we're at that 110, that's where you want to be. What 90 to 110, what pulse per
Beats per minute.
beats per minute? So a whole minute. Okay.
Yeah. So what I do, look, I don't use wearables. So I just take my pulse. I just take my left hand, I wrap it around my wrist. So my fingers are on my radial pulse and I
Hmm.
time it. Like I use the watch to time it for my phone to time it for 10 seconds. And then I times
Okay.
it by 6.
Okay.
Or you can just use your iPhone if it has a heart or your Apple Watch.
Yeah.
But get a sense of what your resting heart rate is and then get a sense of what you are when you're
Hmm.
exercising.
Okay.
And
Got
it's
it.
just a little exercise to be aware of.
Okay. Speaking of just Trump and a little bit more of the markets, just to kind of wrap it up here,
Well,
but
do we
ask my
want to talk about
questions.
JT?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about Justin.
We'll leave him for the end.
Okay.
Okay. So only because there was a lot going on in the markets this week. We did have earnings. We talked about the importance and why it matters. Apple reported their numbers. They did come in a little bit better than expected. So they made $94 billion in sales versus 89 billion. So that was up 10% year over year. They did see upside in their iPhone sales. Now, some people might say that's because people were buying them ahead of tariffs coming in. They are struggling in China, but they did beat expectations in China. So to me, the quarter looked good. I think, as you know, I bought the stock maybe a month or two ago, and there has been concern over their AI strategy. That's still an overhang on the stock. But nonetheless, I think their results were better. Their earnings, bottom line earnings per share, $1.57 versus 143. So I still like it. Amazon also reported their numbers this
They
week.
look great too.
They were good numbers. They beat expectations, but their cloud service, AWS cloud service was a little bit underwhelming versus expectations, and particularly versus Microsoft's and Google's cloud business. So the stock seems to be pulling back a little bit. The markets, I should say, are pulling back a little bit right now today as well, down by about 1%. But in the U.S., it's after 2 weeks of straight gains. So a little bit of fatigue maybe in the market right now and stretched valuations.
Mhm.
What we also saw this week, which is important, is the FOMC, the Federal Reserve. They did have their meeting. They kept rates at standstill, so 4.25 to 4.5%. That's the overnight rate. And that, remember that President Trump has said that he is wanting Fed Chair Jerome Powell to lower rates. He thinks that inflation is not a risk. And that it's time to lower rates. They did have two, what's called dissenters versus the overall group of Fed governors. And they said, so Waller and Bowman, they dissented saying, oh no, we should lower rates right now because we've got slowing jobs and we've got diminished upside inflation risk.
Mhm.
So some people might say, if you're the cynic, you might say that, well, they're dissenting because they want to be in line for taking Fed Chair Jerome Powell's position. Sorry, one second. Bentley, can you help? So anyway, point is the Fed did not lower rates.
Yeah.
We got the US jobs numbers this morning and they did disappoint. They came in lower than expected. So maybe we will start to see the Fed lower rates, which is now expected in the next meeting, and they might even lower rates two more times in the remainder of this year. So important on the Fed. We also had the Bank of Canada. They did not lower rates, and that was expected as well. So no change in Canada, no change in the United States. We did also get US GDP coming in at 3% versus 2% expectations. So better growth in the United States. And in Canada, a negative 0.1%. So essentially negative growth in Canada.
Great.
So that's where we stand. Can you pick them up? So that was I just wanted to make sure it's really important to also kind of always get the macro picture as well.
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
Fed, jobs numbers, and yeah. Any
Okay.
questions on that though?
Do you think Justin Trudeau's dating Katy Perry?
So a pretend astronaut dating a pretend prime minister?
Yeah. He's like, bye-bye, Canada. Here you go. And I am now going to date Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I don't have
But
any
you know what?
questions about.
She better get a good prenup because he'll bankrupt her too.
Oh, interesting. Yep. I mean, he's into music and theater, and maybe
Well,
he'll
he's an
be a much
actor.
better.
Remember,
Yeah, so
he's
maybe
an
he'll be a
actor.
much better boyfriend than, the state he left Canada. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't want to talk negatively about, politics or whatever. It seems like Canada, more and more people I know, what concerns me is when I look around, are all my friends, are people necessarily moving out of Canada? Some, but what I'm tending to see is the people who can, their children are all leaving. So it seems like when I look at some of the baby boomers that did well here, are they leaving? No, but you know what? Their children all seem to be moving to Florida, other places. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow,
All right.
let's talk about, just quickly, I wanted to touch on it because it is tick season and a lot of people are up at the cottage. And now this report just came out that Justin Timberlake has Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
I always find it interesting how often we hear that a celebrity has Lyme disease, that the rate of Lyme disease seems to be so much higher in celebrities than it is in the general population, which makes you wonder about overdiagnosis, or was it true? I'd be curious to ask questions on how he was diagnosed, when he was bitten by the tick, if he knew he was bitten by a tick, or if he just wasn't feeling good and this just came out of, some independent practitioner in the US doing suspicious test on him. But technically speaking, like Lyme disease is a bacterial infection caused by a certain type of tick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, usually within the first few weeks of Lyme disease, you may notice the stereotypical bullseye rash. So, that's the rash where you see the red dot in the middle and then like a red circle around it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it a couple times in patients in my practice. So, that's one of the most telltale signs. The other ones are a little bit more vague, right? Like fatigue, maybe some dizziness, maybe headaches, maybe fevers. So, it's hard to know. And then if, you have those symptoms, you may ignore them, especially if you didn't realize you had a tick bite.
Mm-hmm.
Then months later, you can get more complications from it. So you can get some numbness, tingling, you can get, joint pains, joint swellings. It can affect your heart. It can affect other things. And so that's when, the treatment is
Mm-hmm.
recommended. So, you know, oftentimes when people get bitten by a tick, they're like, "Oh, what should I do? What should I do?" And so, first, the important things to recognize are, okay, do you know what type of tick it is? Because not all ticks transmit Lyme disease.
Right.
Bacteria, which I can never pronounce. Let me see if I can. Borrelia, I think it's Borrelia burgdorferi or something like that. Anyhow, the bacteria from
Mm-hmm.
the tick. So it has to be a certain, I think it's the black-legged tick. But anyhow, if you have a picture of the tick, you can look it up online and see. If it is the Lyme disease type of tick, then the question is, well, how long was it attached to me? So if you don't know, that's when it's like, okay, it may be worth taking a prophylactic dose of an antibiotic. So often we just give one dose of an antibiotic called doxycycline, provided someone doesn't have, contraindications to taking that antibiotic. If the tick was on for less than 36 hours, like in other words, let's say you on it and then you got it off, you can do a watch and wait approach where it's like, okay, we tell people you don't need to rush to take the antibiotic if you don't want to, but just give it a month and see if you see any of those symptoms like the rash, like fevers, like headaches. And
Why
then,
would you wait though? Like, why wouldn't you just take the
well,
antibiotic?
so a lot of people feel that way. So if you're the type of person that's like, why not just take one dose of antibiotic?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what I would do. And, if you don't
Yeah.
have any, if you've taken the antibiotic for it, don't have any side effects, then yeah, I think one dose isn't a really, but let's say you're not near a doctor, you can't get into the doctor. They're saying don't panic. You know, if the tick was on for less than 36 hours, you don't need to panic because usually the watch and wait approach is what the CDC recommends. And then if you did have any of these telltale symptoms, then you would treat yourself with a longer course of antibiotic. You would take it for, 10 days or 2 weeks. The only difference between a later stage of Lyme disease is you're still going to
Mm-hmm.
use the antibiotic, but then it would be an IV treatment. So instead of just taking
Oh.
an oral antibiotic, you get an IV antibiotic. So bottom line, do you have any questions about any of this or not really?
Well, I do in the sense that when people do have Lyme disease and it's, kind of far gone or very much implanted in them, I feel like there are some people who know how and where to get the best treatment and what those treatments are. People are fighting it. It's difficult, but I know people who have recovered from it or there's certain
Mhm.
ways
Yeah,
and
IV
what are
antibiotics. Yeah, so usually it's again treating the symptoms. So treating, like if you're having pain or numbness or tingling, it's taking a medication that might treat that.
mm,
Um, and then you're just using the antibiotic to clear the bacterial infection. It's a bacterial infection.
but some people have it for years.
Yeah, some people have long COVID for years. Some people have chronic fatigue syndrome. Some people have mono for, and then you wonder, is it truly that? Or there's just because the symptoms are so vague, like you might feel
Mm,
depressed, low energy, or weight gain, or, it's hard to know. Is it really, or are these comorbid things also at play?
I
And,
see.
when I
Yeah.
think about Justin Timberlake, he's been through a lot in the past couple years, right? He had that DUI. Remember, he had that DUI in
Right.
Hamptons, and then
Hamptons,
it came
yeah.
out that maybe he was having an affair. And then who knows the stress that caused on his family, on his career, on his marriage. And then now Jessica Biel's in this hit show, The Better Sister, which I love.
Yeah.
And I guess so it makes you wonder, like, are there, sometimes if you're not feeling good, if you're having these symptoms like headaches and brain fogginess and depression and anxiety and, could it be Lyme disease? Maybe. Or could it be long COVID? Maybe. Or could it be anxiety
Life.
and depression and life
Yeah.
and midlife and
Yeah.
menopause? And, there's so many different things you have to. So, anyhow, I was just kind of curious to know if he had a known tick bite, like if he really saw the tick.
Mm-hmm.
and how it was diagnosed. Like the proper diagnosis for Lyme disease is a blood test that looks for
Oh,
an ELISA test is first and a Western blot. But there's these other companies. Some of these companies are trying to like make money off it and profit off patients that don't feel well, and they may be doing like some shadier tests. So,
oh, interesting.
hmm.
I don't know. I mean, like I grew up, in Muskoka going through the woods and playing in the woods and, hiking and all that. And now I'm like,
No.
and, and
Well, you just have to wear
raking.
bugs. Wear long sleeves and long pants, wear bug spray, and just check yourself. Because like we talked about, unless that tick is on for longer than 36 hours, it's a very low risk of it transmitting the bacteria that causes Lyme disease.
Yeah.
So when you come in from the outdoors, check your hair, check your scalp. I check my kids, check,
It's a lot of checking.
check the dogs.
It's a lot of checking. What's that? Check the dogs. I
Dogs.
know. That's the hard part.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay, and on that
All
note,
right. Now I'm itchy. You itch your head.
well, wait till I talk about lice, then you'll really get itchy.
I hope you're not going to talk about lice.
No, but it's
Okay.
camp season right now. So a lot of times when these kids come home from camp, a lot of parents just do a prophylactic lice check because you don't want to get lice in the house. That's a
God, no.
yeah.
No. No, thank you. All right. We can sign off. I'm still full. And what I should do is get on the
from that lunch.
well, I'm so full.
Oh my
I,
God.
I should go and get on the treadmill.
Yeah. Just go out
That's
for a
what-
walk. Yeah.
yeah.
I did my
You-
Pilates this morning. It was so good. Now we're heading to the
So
cottage.
good.
Yeah, I love
Now you're
it.
heading to the cottage.
Mhm.
All right, wait, we'll sign off. The
Okay.
state. I have one more thing. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
All right. Take care.
Well
Bye.
then.